everyone. Welcome back to our next podcast. I'm very excited about learning more about Whitetails Unlimited today. And what makes this really special is that I've got Mike DeCheck on the show with me here today, and he is looking to hire several field managers, and I'll let him explain that to us as we go through it. But this is a great podcast because we're going to learn about Whitetails Unlimited. So welcome, Mike, and tell us a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I work for Whitetails Unlimited. If you're familiar with Ducks Unlimited or Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, it's a very similar type organization. We're a conservation-focused nonprofit. The biggest difference is we focus around preserving the American tradition of deer hunting for the next generation, as opposed to some of the other organizations that focus more on ducks or elk or any of the other species out there. I've been with the company about a year now, and I couldn't be happier.
That's great. What a great organization. And of course, whitetails are close to my heart, being from North Idaho and now moving to South Dakota. It's good to hear that there's an organization out there focused on their survival and also helping people understand their life cycle and how they can interact and help the species.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us what brought you to Whitetail Unlimited, and tell me a little bit about you and what you do in your job there.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, this was never my goal to get to Whitetails Unlimited or really even into the outdoor industry for that matter. I guess you could say my first real job was I was in the U.S. Army for 11 years. I flew Black Hawk helicopters. After that, I went to law school with the GI Bill. Really didn't like being an attorney, but I liked the area where I was living. So I essentially left the law field and just said, I'm staying here in this part of Wisconsin, at least until I can figure things out, for lack of a better word. I saw a position open up at Whitetails Unlimited, which I had worked with Dave Hockey and Pete Girl, who are really two of the founders here, as an attorney. So we had some knowledge of each other and some acquaintances, but I really knew about the organization from a business and legal standpoint, not necessarily from the conservation standpoint.
That's cool.
So yeah, I applied for the job. I interviewed. It all went well, and as they say, the rest was history after that. So it's great, but I also don't have a ton of great information for people to follow my path to get there, if that makes sense.
Well, that's really neat, and thank you for your service. I don't think I realized that about you, and what a gift you've given the rest of us to live the life we get to live. And then on top of that, you've done and gone all this education to be an attorney. You're a smart guy. Holy cow, I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of you. So tell us about the structure for the people that work with you. Your title is Vice President of Field Operations. And what does that mean, and what are the field operations? I'm not sure I really understand that fully.
No, sure. So when we say field operations, we really mean all of the folks working not at our national headquarters, predominantly putting on our events, which our events are very similar to our other organizations. There's typically a dinner, there's an auction, there's raffles. Depending what state you're in, there may be games, and you win firearms and outdoor related prizes at the events. But it's primarily a fundraising event, with the money then being used to preserve hunting for the next generation.
Those are great events. I love those banquets. We belonged to an organization in North Idaho and contributed heavily to that, bought a table, and I found those to be really essential in your local community, because you get a chance to get to know your neighbors and people that you might not otherwise meet that believe in the same type of values and are going the same direction. And it's, wow, what a fantastic organization. And a lot of times these are very kid friendly, a great opportunity to involve your whole family.
Oh, absolutely.
So tell us you said you've got a couple positions that you're hiring for. Tell us what positions you're hiring for and what geographic area of the country, so people know if they might be interested. And we'll cover where to apply for this. And we'll also put a link to your website where they can apply and reach out to you. along with this podcast when we publish it. But talk a little bit about the job at hand.
Sure. So the current positions we have posted are really independent contractor positions through Whitetails Unlimited.
Okay.
The only difference between our full-time field directors and our independent contractors is really the number of events they're holding per year. We have independent contractors that it's either their side gig or they're retired and it's just a part-time type employment where they hold 4, maybe 6 events a year just to supplement their income, or just almost like a hobby now that they're retired. We also have independent contractors that have grown their territory and the number of events up to that 40 mark, and they're really being looked at for full-time positions now.
Wow.
The biggest reason we have the independent contractor program is for us to employ somebody is very expensive. There's a lot of overhead for the events, and the people that are entering our industry, especially on the field director side, usually it's an entry-level job and they really don't know if they want to do that. It is very unique in the sense that you have a lot of independence, but with that, you have all of the drawbacks of managing your own time, managing your own inventories, all of those, I would say, like small business type tasks, where some people like it and some people realize they really just don't like that independence and they want a much more structured position.
So someone that is that likes to work independently, that wants to interact with people and have goals to meet, these are people who are going to rub elbows with other hunters and other people who are passionate about whitetails, and they're going to be organizing and putting together the banquets. I mean, there's guidance. Obviously, you guys have done this before. It's not like someone has to reinvent the wheel.
Correct. Yeah. When we hire a new field director, I tell them it is unlikely you're going to have a problem that we have not solved many times over the last 40 years of our organization's existence.
Yeah.
That being said, I'll be the first to admit we get thrown a curveball every now and again where I say like, oh, okay, yes, this is the first time that has happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, getting to what you had talked about just prior to that. Yeah, we don't have what I would call like a good feeder career field for our field directors. Our current staff, we have folks from all walks of life. We have Air Force veterans. I have a former professional baseball player, former game wardens, folks that were in farm sales or construction sales. So we really have the full gambit of people working for us in these positions.
Well, that's pretty neat, really, because you could come from any walk of life that's independent. I would think someone who was in real estate previously or wanted to try something new with the market changing, this would be a natural fit. Or someone who was in the selling insurance, like, property insurance, or someone from a rent-a-car place. They usually have very good educational backgrounds. And someone could do this part-time while they're even going to school.
Absolutely. And I'll be the first to admit, when I have someone apply for the independent contractor job, one of the biggest problems is people want to just jump in with both feet and say, well, I want to quit my job. I want to do this. I love the organization. I love deer hunting. But there's no way for me to do this full time as an independent contractor and quit my job. So it's kind of like, what do I do? And the short answer to that is I don't have an answer. I'll be the first to admit our jobs do not fit everybody. Our events are held at night. It's a lot of Thursday, Friday, and or Saturday nights, which if you're young in life and you want to have those times free, it doesn't work. If you have kids that are playing high school sports, that's when a lot of the games end up being. So there's a lot of factors external to the person and even our organization that really end up restricting who we're able to hire for these positions.
These are very good positions, though. Even someone that was working at a Murdoch's or I'm not sure you guys have Fleet Farm out there. Do you have?
Yeah, we have both Farm and Fleet Farm out in Wisconsin.
Okay. Any of those big sporting goods organizations, these would be a natural fit for the people that are working the firearms counters, because in the organization that I was a part of in Idaho, that's exactly what we had. We had people that were from the North 40, which was our big sporting store. And that way, all the FFL, they ran it through there. It was really a great way for those people at the sporting goods companies to get to know the local buyers.
Oh, absolutely. I would say one of the kind of like the trademarks of our more successful field directors is wherever they're living when we hire them, they've lived there for more than 10 years, and
Yeah.
they've been in some type of a job or position where they know a lot of people throughout the state that are already in the hunting or fishing industry.
Yeah.
It just makes the networking piece that
Yep.
much easier. So when they're talking to people about setting up an event at a new location, there's some rapport between the people there, or at least there's a name recognition or some connection other than just, random stranger X coming into town and saying like, I want to hold an event here. We're going to have 200 people. We're going to raise money for deer. And everybody kind of looks like they're the snake oil salesman because it doesn't seem legitimate. It doesn't seem like a real thing.
Yeah, it is a relationship driven thing, but it's very community oriented. So tell us, when you think of your most successful field director, manager, I hope I'm not messing up the title. What traits does that person have? When you're thinking of who's the most successful on your team, what are the traits that they exhibit and what do they do that makes them so successful?
Sure. I think first off is recruiting committee members and volunteers that are buying into the overall mission of Whitetails Unlimited.
Good point.
When you start looking at problems through that much narrower scope, a lot of those problems will solve themselves or go away. I would say adaptability is another big one. Where we have problems is someone comes in and they say, well, we used to do X at my previous employer, or, I used to be a chapter president at Ducks Unlimited or Pheasants Forever or anything. And we like doing it that way. And they try to take what Whitetails Unlimited is doing and mold it into the things that they're comfortable with or things they've done in the past. That's more of a problematic aspect. So the idea of where you can look at our business model or our system of doing things and find out how to adapt into it, as opposed to try to adapt the organization into what the individual wants.
Right. And this person isn't on an island. So they're bringing in their friends and family and people they're coming in contact with that want to run this banquet and be a part of it. They're not doing it by themselves.
Correct. Yeah. Well, none of our folks are on an island from a running event standpoint. But I will say all of our field directors out in the field, like I don't talk to them every day. I might talk to some of them. I don't talk to for months at a time. I more or less have the policy if you can call me at any time and we'll talk about anything you want to talk about. But I don't micromanage. I don't call and ask them on a weekly basis. Oh, did you talk to this person? Did you check on the venue status? What's going on with your raffle? We just don't have the time to really do that. And we really seek out people that don't need that.
Yeah. And the people you're looking for, they don't want that anyway.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us a little bit about the mission and the goals for Whitetails Unlimited in the next year or so. What are you guys working on? Tell us about the size of your organization.
Sure. So size-wise, we're really in, if you drew a line from, say, North Dakota to Texas, we're in every state east of there.
Wow.
We currently put on about 500 events per year. As far as goals, I'm glad you brought this up, and it's kind of funny. We actually were bouncing some ideas around with this recently between myself and the executive director and the board. I'll say this from a personal goal standpoint for the organization, I would really like to hire 5 to 7 people in the next 12 months. That's really my focus for my job. From an organizational standpoint, we really looked at, should we start having almost like an annual focus, like year of the youth hunter or year of the habitat restoration or those, more focused ideas that fall under our greater mission. Ultimately, at this point, we really haven't gone that route. And the biggest reason is we try to have our chapters spend as much of the money as possible at their local level. The idea being, the person that lives in County X, Mississippi, knows what that county needs. We're not going to know up here in Wisconsin. So if they think the best thing they can do is spend money to put a food plot on a piece of public land, we're going to support that. If their biggest problem is there's only one range in the entire county to sight in their deer rifle and they want to expand that range, but the range doesn't have the funding for that, we can help out with that through our grant process.
That's a lot of flexibility. Talk about adaptability. You guys are walking the walk.
We are absolutely flexible, and on the grant side, I would say everything has to fall under the umbrella of preserving the tradition of hunting for the next generation. but it's a very broad umbrella once we start really looking at what falls underneath that.
Yeah. Where could we send people to find out more information about Whitetails Unlimited and these jobs specifically that you're looking to fill? Where do you have a jobs page?
We do. If you go to our website, whitetailsunlimited.com, under the
Great.
About tab, there is a careers page.
Great. Okay. And what are the states that you're currently looking for, or the areas that you're currently looking to hire field, is it field directors?
Field directors, if you say field representatives, that's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, right now we're especially looking the Oklahoma, North Texas region, Tennessee, Kentucky, North
Great
Carolina,
hunting.
South Carolina, and even up into Virginia.
All great hunting.
Absolutely. We are looking, eventually we do plan on going nationwide. It's just really a matter of having a phased expansion and not biting off more than we can chew in the short term.
Right, right. Okay, so let's go over that. So Oklahoma, Texas.
Correct.
So does the person take, are those two positions or just one?
The reality is it depends. If we find the right person, it would be one person. If we have an applicant, they're like, for whatever reason, they're retired, they have another job, they only want to do 4 events a year, we might have 2.
Okay, so
honestly, Texas is big enough that I could probably put 3 independent contractors in there.
That's what I was wondering. They're big. That's a big state. Right.
We have a lot of flexibility on the size of territory and where we can put people based off what they want to do. What we try to avoid is putting 2 people close together when they both have those aspirations to really put on 40 events a year and become full-time employees, because eventually those lines are going to get a little too crossed.
Yeah. Okay. So Oklahoma, Texas, Tennessee,
Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia.
North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Okay. Right. So anyone who's listening to this in those states and areas that wants to do a really fun job, either part-time, full-time, or whatever you want to make of it. I mean, I love jobs like that. You make of it what you put into it. Then reach out to Mike and Whitetails Unlimited.
Along with that, folks that are in other areas, we do have a lot of opportunities on the volunteer side, or even, it wouldn't be a full contract employment spot, but where we can get you into the organization and kind of feel things out. I can't promise a job on the back side of it, but I'll be the first to admit, we absolutely try to hire people that have been connected for our organization for multiple years prior to the job being posted. It's just nice to know that they've been to multiple events of ours and they really understand the mission. They understand the job prior to us even looking at their resume.
And volunteers is a great thing to bring up, because that's what really these organizations need. Many hands make light work. You just, if you can't, even if it's only for an hour or one banquet a year, there's always something that you can do to contribute to your community. And this is a great opportunity to do that.
Absolutely true. In addition to what you're giving back to the community, if you do want to come into the outdoor industry, it's a great networking opportunity. The more people you can know in this industry, the easier it is to really be successful in it, or even if you're not in it yet, to break into it.
It's a really great point, because it's a great jumping off point. For instance, if you had aspirations and you were in school, or you wanted to change careers, no matter where you're at in your career, volunteering at an organization like Whitetails Unlimited and getting involved is just getting you one step closer to being in the outdoor industry, in the shooting sports industry, or whatever part that you want to get into, because your organization really does touch a lot of those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be the first to admit and it's not really a Whitetails Unlimited issue, I don't think, but the volunteers that are available, or the people that want to volunteer out there, for whatever reason, is shrinking every day. We see it at Whitetails Unlimited. I'm a life member for the VFW. While I joined the VFW before I left the military, but I've been part of 3 different chapters, and 2 of those chapters have dissolved because of just low members, and there's just not that next generation that wants to be part of those types of organizations, whether it's a Whitetails Unlimited, a VFW, the Lions Club. For whatever reason, the number of people that want to do that is shrinking every year.
They're missing out, because, here we are, this society, like, look at you and I. I'm happy to have video, and I'm happy to meet each other virtually.
Right.
But what I fear the danger is no one is mentoring anyone. No one is in the same office teaching them, here's how you shake someone's hand. As simple as that seems, there's no one teaching people because we're working virtually, and then we have a lot of people that aren't getting invested in their local community and the people that are around them. And this is a great way to do that, even if you're not a people person, because you're talking about something that you're passionate about, which is hunting and preserving the whitetail, conservation and things like that. And I think it is a detriment to our entire country to not be doing something to volunteer your time.
No, I would agree. My personal opinion, I think social media has something to do with it, where that
Yeah.
social media has kind of filled that gap where people used to be part of these other organizations where it wasn't your friends, but it was a network of people that had similar values or similar interests as you. Now
Yeah.
people are getting that through social media. They can do it from their couch while they're wearing their pajamas. And the unfortunate problem then is these other organizations like Whitetails Unlimited, the VFW, Lions
Yeah.
Club, et cetera, have trouble then recruiting volunteers. And the unfortunate reality is they then have chapters that start to fold up and dissolve because of that.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think that some of the lessons that life lessons you've learned volunteering, for instance, with the VFW, tell me what unique experiences that have enriched your life?
Sure. I guess on the lessons learned side
Mhm.
is, and for me, this is not difficult to understand, but when I talk to people younger than myself, I always run into this problem is people want things now.
Yeah.
Like I have a cell phone, a regular smartphone. Within 80 seconds, call it 60 seconds, minute and a half, I can find any piece of information ever been put out anywhere because
Yeah.
of that. And people just want that instant gratification and that instant job, or I want to go from 0 to 100 instantly because that's what we've just become accustomed to and used to in our day-to-day lives. The unfortunate reality is the world doesn't work that way. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people end up closing doors that they shouldn't because they just want an instant gratification. Or they want that instant end state without doing the work to get there.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've had the positions we have open now have been posted for a while. I've interviewed quite a few people. And like I said, the number one problem people have at the position is I want a full-time job right now. I want 2 weeks paycheck or a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I can figure out everything else on the backside of that. As an organization, the amount we invest in a person, and even some of our events, the initial investment sometimes crosses a 6-figure mark.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
throw that kind of money at every person that applies without us going bankrupt. And
Right.
the
It has to be a
unfortunate
partnership. They have to be committed to you and you have to be committed to them.
Well, and like, don't get me wrong. I understand there are people that where they're at in their lives, they can't take a job that doesn't have a steady paycheck or doesn't
Yeah.
offer health insurance or some of those other benefits.
Yeah.
But we have absolutely had part-time field directors that were doing the whitetails thing part-time. They had an employer that more or less said, what's this moonlighting business you're doing outside of the company? We had one of our field directors. I'm not going to name it. It's really his story to tell, but essentially the employer said, like, from now on, like, you either have to give up this whitetails thing or we're going to terminate you. And he quit on the spot, and he's been with us ever since. He's doing great things for us, and he's making more money through us than through the job he hated that he left. So it's a really good feel-good story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to imply that that's what we're offering. He's done
Yeah.
a ton of work. He's put in a ton of time on the nights and the weekends, like from sun up till sundown, which is why he's been successful. It wasn't anything that we handed him. He
Yeah.
did the work himself. We really just provided that opportunity.
But you hear of a lot of these employers in high tech and banking. I know our local bank here, which is a big regional bank, they just took the day off and closed the offices to go volunteer. And they ended up painting, I think it was our childcare building at the school.
Mhm.
A lot of employers are offering that, they understand that mental health is very important. And to me, this is mental health. To me, going to these banquets is mental health. I consider it a donation for my company when I go buy a table. So I think we just need to keep educating people like we were educated when we were younger. As my mentor has reminded me many times, I say, why would you ever help me with all this? It's amazing what you've done to help me. And she says, but you're helping me by letting me do this. Right. And I think we cannot impress upon people, young or old, how valuable volunteering is and mentoring people, which is essentially the same thing. You're helping someone else and it enriches your life. So instead of a government handout, perhaps some of these people could volunteer their time and they would find that that loneliness that they feel from social media, they wouldn't have that if they volunteered their time and helped out. And maybe this turns into a 1099 part-time job that then grows into a full-time job. But the opportunity for mental health and personal wealth in the attitude of people, I think, is there and can easily be provided by a Whitetails Unlimited. There's many things that you could use help with in your chapters, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would agree with most of that. I would say one thing that more than the volunteering side, I think time management is something that I don't know when it happened, but people are just not good at it.
Yeah.
I like to make simple rules. I like to say I'm a simple person. I keep really simple rules. I won't turn my television on until I've at least worked out for a half hour and read at least a half hour out of whatever book or multiple books I'm reading for or through that time.
That's a good idea.
Like the idea just before you're going to just kind of, I call it like write off the rest of the day.
Yeah.
At least do those couple of things. One, to improve your body, improve your health, improve what you're learning about. I would, caveat on that. I think like I like to consider myself a lifelong learner. For the most part, the books I read are related to economic psychology and some of the intersections between the two. And I've realized that like the more I read, the less I fit in with some other people. Because if you don't read and all you can do is talk about what's on Netflix, the reality is most of those shows I haven't seen yet. I'm getting around to it. My list of TV watching keeps getting longer, but I just, doing other things don't have time for it right now. And I think turn off the phones, turn off the TVs, go actually do something, whether it's volunteering at a banquet or even just get out and go hike through one of your local parks. Just get out of your house and away from I call it the blue screen. I think anything with a computer, telephone, et cetera.
Good idea. So. Very good idea. Get outside.
Right.
So tell me about, we'll wrap it up with telling me about any hunting experiences that your team or that you have had that maybe a good story to share, or perhaps maybe their favorite rifle that everyone talks about. I'll leave that to you to decide.
Okay. So on the favorite rifle or favorite firearm side, I'll be honest, I don't have a favorite. I look at firearms as tools. You use the right tool for the right job. That being said, I'm a firm believer if you're going to own a firearm, you need to go shoot the firearm. I have no ambition for collector's items or antiques that aren't meant to be shot or anything of that nature. While I was still in the Army, we had a commemorative 1911 for one of our deployments. And I absolutely couldn't wait to go shoot it. And it horrified the people around me. They're like, no, this isn't the gun you buy to go shoot. And I go, I shoot all of my guns. Putting stuff in a bookshelf or in a safe.
No good in a safe that you don't see and you don't use.
No. I everything I own, I use and abuse. I mean, my
awesome.
Truck's a 9-year-old Toyota. I run it up and down the road. I don't care what happens to it. It's meant to be
the perfect hunting vehicle.
Yes, it's meant to be beaten up. If a kid drops throws a softball against it, I laugh and move on. There's nothing to worry about there.
Yeah, that's less stressful.
Absolutely.
So good hunting in your neck of the woods up there, I'll bet.
So we have good hunting where I'm at. I will say that our biggest problem is especially in my corner of the state, we have far more hunters than huntable land, which is always a problem.
That's surprising in Wisconsin.
Well, I'm talking my corner of Wisconsin. Wisconsin as a whole, we do have a lot of public land. We are wrestling with the problem of CWD in about a third of our state.
That's
we
very
reintroduced
serious.
Wolves in the northern half of the state. I'm going to say 20 years ago now, but because I was in the military, I traveled outside of Wisconsin so much, I might be off by 20 years on that figure. So
no, the wolves are an issue.
Anybody out there who knows I'm wrong on that number, I apologize. I'm not trying to be an expert on it. But yeah, so we have our own, I get called the idiosyncratic issues in Wisconsin related to deer hunting. for the most part, as an organization, we avoid those political issues. We tell people to become as informed as you can on your own, and then vote with whatever you think is the right policy or the right person to implement that policy.
Well, conservation is key, right? And that means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Correct.
But the fact that you guys are organized and making this happen is really credible and a big deal. And I would think anyone who's listening to this podcast would know that now they have another venue where they can reach out and get educated. And it's quite a large span of states that you touch. So I think, this is a very worthy organization to get into the outdoor industry. And I hope that you see a lot of folks reaching out and getting more information about jumping on board, either volunteering or 1099, helping out with those states that need the help. And we'll put the link here with our podcast. And so it'll be on whitetailsunlimited.com, and then we'll have the link below. But thank you, Mike, very much for spending the morning with me recording this.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.